Every now and then, a game comes out and defies expectations. When Activision canceled True Crime Hong Kong and Square Enix purchased the rights, it seemed to be a bad omen. If making the necessary changes and polishing the game was not worth Activision's time, what hope would gamers have? It's not as though the first two True Crime titles set the world on fire. They merely served as appetizers for Rockstar's next release. Thankfully, Sleeping Dogs turned out to be one of 2012's biggest surprises. It's far from perfect, but it offers a competent open-world game with some thoughtfully fleshed out mechanics. Fans of film directors like Johnny To, Ringo Lam, and John Woo will feel right at home in Sleeping Dogs. You take control of Wei Shin, a Hong Kong native who's just returned home after spending some time in the United States. He's working as an undercover cop under Superintendent Thomas Pendrew and his handler Raymond Mok, in an effort to take down a powerful triad gang known as the Sun On Yee. Wei's assignment positions him as a lowly thug under the wing of a roided-out hothead named Winston Chu, and follows his ascension to a prominent figure within the Sun On Yee. Things become complicated, however, as the line between undercover cop and criminal blurs. Wei becomes deeply entrenched in the criminal underworld, building friendships with his gangmates, while witnessing signs of corruption within the police force. The yarn spun by Sleeping Dogs is solid enough, but its telling stumbles. Pacing is all over the place, and many important elements seem undercooked. Sleeping Dogs has issues integrating plot points into missions and providing build-up. For example, Winston has a fiancée that is revealed to you when you run a few errands for her as part of a mission. She softens Winston's image and makes him a little bit more human. Unfortunately, she exits the plot just as abruptly she shows up, making her little more than a tool to develop Winston. Thankfully, the finale builds in a satisfying way, and there are some sections that are really effective engaging in the middle portion of the tale. It's just a shame that it couldn't be more consistent and better developed.
Organization have been significant.
With respect, I have to agree with Sister Jen.
Being an undercover cop, Wei must straddle the line between right and wrong, and missions reflect this. Good guy Wei finds time between running errands for the Triad to help a police inspector with a few cases. Triad missions are straightforward affairs that usually involve collecting protection money, stealing stuff, beating the hell out of other gang members, and maybe shooting a few people. Cop cases play out like multi-stage quest chains commonly associated with RPGs. Wei also earns experience from both a cop skill tree and a Triad skill tree. You earn both types of experience in both mission types, but being a public menace and destroying public property or killing civilians will take away from the cop experience you earn in missions. Throughout the course of Sleeping Dogs, Wei hacks cameras, races, sings karaoke, cracks combination locks, plants bugs, triangulates cell phone calls, bets on cockfights, plays mahjong poker, and picks locks. The game does a great job of mixing these elements up, and missions are generally interesting, with only a few lame ducks. All of the aforementioned elements are secondary to the driving, fighting, and shooting you'll be doing to make your way through the game. The fighting system in this game really shines. Wei relies on strikes, grapples, and counters to dispatch his foes. Enemies come in varieties as well. Some specialize in strikes and block many of your attacks. Grapplers are burly chaps that you want to keep at bay with power strikes. Some enemies wield knives and tire irons, and later in the game you'll find enemies that are really only susceptible to counters. If you want to live in Sleeping Dogs, you'll have to prioritize your foes and time your attacks carefully. Your wushu can be complemented by finding jade statues and can be returned to the Kung Fu master in the game. These moves are valuable tools, and you'll find yourself utilizing most of them. They allow you to snap your opponent's limbs, deliver powerful blows, and disarm your foes. It's a great system, and it evolves enough during the course of the game to remain engaging. Driving is similar to other open world games with cars that handle differently based on weight and size. The one unique addition to the driving mechanics is a button that throws your car sideways by pushing the appropriate button or key and moving in the direction you wish to go. This allows you to ram vehicles that are in hot pursuit of Wei. Motorcycles, scooters, and boats are also among vehicles you will pilot. Shooting is of the cover-based variety, and Wei can vault from cover and enter slow motion as well as blind fire. It's solid, but the mechanics are not as unique and engaging as the hand-to-hand combat. In light of this, most of the game focuses on hand-to-hand confrontations. Sleeping Dogs' interpretation of Hong Kong is an efficiently constructed playground. There is an unusual amount of verticality in this game despite the lack of air vehicles. Wei can climb the ledges and scaffolding around a number of buildings to access rooftops. Pedestrian overpasses on the streets also provide access to high places in which numerous collectibles are tucked away. Free running is also part of Sleeping Dog's bag of tricks. At certain points, Wei will have to pursue targets on foot through a gauntlet of barriers and other impediments. These sections involve the player running after them and timing button presses to clear obstacles gracefully. Poor timing results in fumbling over an obstacle and losing ground. The animations for these sections don't flow together as smoothly as those in Assassin's Creed, but the extra input required to complete them is a welcome addition that adds a small layer of interactivity in what is usually a passive experience in other games. It's just a shame that the camera is not exactly stellar. It seems to have a knack for being at the wrong place most of the time. Strangely absent is the ability to center the camera with a button press that is common in third-person action games. On the PC, Sleeping Dogs is a really pleasing game to look at. Square Enix has also made a high-resolution texture pack available for those with decent rigs and includes some DirectX 11 features. Hong Kong is wonderfully detailed, with neon signs glowing, power lines forming webs overhead, air conditioning fans spinning on the sides of buildings, and plenty of pedestrians and traffic to make the city feel alive. Also, the game wisely uses rain to give everything a nice sheen. As it rains, the wet pavement reveals reflections of neon signs and characters appear wet. The handful of interiors are also detailed and pleasing to look at. NPCs are not too detailed and are a little more robotic as a result of a low poly count, and the cars are not tremendously detailed, but these are technical limitations that are to be expected. The main characters, however, are richly detailed, making the cutscenes a treat. Skin textures are very detailed, and tattoos that adorn the bodies of gangsters add quite a bit of character to each of them. You can also customize the clothing that Wei wears. Wearing certain combinations of clothing can provide stat benefits. Clothing options are rather varied, accounting for both ridiculous looks and strictly business attire. The auditory presentation of this fictionalized version of Hong Kong is pretty solid. There is a good mix of hip-hop, rock, classical, electronic, and some Chinese tracks that add some local flavor to the soundtrack. Likewise, most of the commercials and GJs are voiced in Cantonese. Characters generally speak English, but throw in some Cantonese, which, given the strong Western influence in Hong Kong, isn't entirely out of place. The stereotypical accents usually add a small degree of authenticity, but can be a bit ridiculous at times, particularly the pork bun vendors. Lines that will have you giggling in the first few minutes of the game are rather grating in the last few hours. The vocal performances by Will Yan Lee as Wei and Tom Wilkinson as Pendrew are particularly strong, however. Many of the other voice actors turn in solid performances.
That home Garton is gonna get what's coming in. Right now, I need someone to take care of me.
For a game that was almost canned, Sleeping Dogs is quite impressive. The story fumbles around before ending on a strong note, and the camera can be irritating, but these faults are offset by great mechanics and strong visuals on the PC. Sleeping Dogs isn't ready to dethrone Grand Theft Auto as the best open-world crime game, but its robust mechanics and numerous diversions make it a strong addition to the genre. It appears that Square Enix struck gold by reviving this dead dog.